I still look back and I'm grateful that, I continued. Well, one of the clients that I worked with asked me to hire a team for them. I don't know how to do that. They just trusted me. And I'm like, wait, oh my God. It never even crossed my mind that I would be starting a business.
Welcome back to the Perpetual Growth Podcast, where we explore the strategies, insights, and stories that empower you to grow your business, strengthen your relationships, and elevate your health. Because growth isn't just about what you achieve, it's about who you become along the way. Today's guest is a force in the world of tech-enabled outsourcing and business empowerment. I'm joined by Marge Avizo, CEO of TeleworkPH and co-founder of Salig AICRM. She's built one of the Philippines' fastest growing rural BPOs, scaled strategic support teams for tech companies around the globe, and now she's on a mission to merge AI with human talent to empower communities, entrepreneurs, and women across the region. From her start as a nurse to becoming a multi-awarded business leader, Marge brings a refreshing blend of heart, hustle, and high-level execution. We're going to unpack what it takes to build scalable offshore teams, how to hire top 5% virtual talent, and the future of AI-enabled operations, and maybe even dive into her journey as a film producer and women's advocate along the way. So let's dive in. Marge, welcome to the Perpetual Growth Podcast.
Thank you so much. Well, I hope to bring a lot of value to our listeners and audience today, and really appreciate being in on here today.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to have you. Well, Marge, as my listeners know, I always like to start with this question because I think it reveals a lot about who someone really is. What does growth
Mhm.
mean to you right now in this season of your life?
Oh my gosh, it's a really powerful question. It made me smile. Growth in this season of my life specifically is, really learning about life in general and just it's easy to say to learn the ropes of entrepreneurship. That's where my roots, are, but really understanding myself from a deeper perspective and learning the people around me and learning what matters most and learning where to focus my energy more. And for me, growth is more of like really having that peace of mind at the end of the day and just being open to just existing,
Mhm.
just being there for a reason, and that reason has a very big purpose as well. And I'm really happy in the journey that I'm in right now, albeit all the challenges. I guess, life really comes with both positive and negative. So we just
Yeah,
have to really accept it. It's the way it is.
no, it's so true. It's funny because I think most of us, on some level, consciously or unconsciously, we would wish for everything to be sunshine and rainbows, like great all the time. But the reality is,
I know.
the good without the bad. We don't have that contrast, and I don't know that we would appreciate it as much. So, there is the power in
Exactly.
those challenges, and oftentimes they're by design, more often than not, to help us grow. I'm curious about a couple things you said though, because I really love what you said. Um, and there's two things in particular that stood out, and you talked a little bit about getting to know yourself and the people around you. And I firmly believe, and I think most people would agree, that we have seasons of life, right?
Mhm.
Every decade you can reflect back and go, wow, uh, there is a complete transformation in the way that I look at myself, the world,
Mhm.
spirit, the things, people around me. Um, and I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about that. Like, what does that look like when you're thinking about you? And what does that look like when you're thinking about the people around you?
Well, I guess when I used to, start in this journey of entrepreneurship, I was always, looking at how people would look at me and be so much concerned about how, how would I make an impact? And I was so obsessed with that. And so it brings anxiety. It brings a lot of worries in me, and I constantly have to battle with, I just want to be able to deliver. I just want to be able to meet that excellence. Like excellence is my name, that type of thing. And I was so egoistic at the time and like I can do this, I can do this, I can do this all by myself, not realizing that it requires, God to intervene in that special moment and just realize that it's not you after all. It wasn't
Mhm.
because of you, just you. And so when that transformation took place, especially during the pandemic, it was very clear to me now that I wasn't doing all this just because I wanted to become an entrepreneur. I wasn't doing all this just because I wanted an income, or it's very shallow kind of purpose. But now I've realized that there's so much more to do. There's just so much. And sometimes I think about, how do I sustain all these things? How do I give energy? How do I provide time for my family while running a business and being a mom and being, a wife and all that stuff, and being in music too and producing a
Mhm.
film? There's just so much going on. And I look back and say, you know what? It wasn't because I have been staying healthy. I guess that's part of it, but it's really, God sustaining that energy for me. Because it makes me wonder how every single day I get to get up and just show up. And sometimes I think about the times that I failed in business, and I don't have that face to show to my employees or my clients or my suppliers, all the stakeholders, and realizing that, you know what? When I talk to them and I hear their thoughts, they weren't looking at my failure. They were looking at how I stood up from that failure. And I was amazed because I was looking at myself from that, oh, you're a failure. You know what? You're that person who was trying to do all these things all together and just feeling like it's going to succeed, but it didn't turn out to be a success. So those types of things were running all in my head. But now realizing that I was surrounded by the right people, but in the beginning it was so much of a challenge. Like, I don't know how to discern, how to, when I look at partnerships, when I look at, people in a negotiating table, I wouldn't know if this person had something, at the back of their heads, like a hidden agenda or something. But today it becomes very clear to me, like, God is just, and it's true, when you intervene, when God comes into the mission, and he's always like, when I hop into this call, I was just saying, God, speak for me, it's not my story to tell. But during those moments, I would know that there is that certain wisdom that I couldn't explain, that, that was just tell you know what? While you feel that the deal looks good and all that shiny things, it doesn't feel right. And I listen a lot more to that intuition. I listen to, while we look at data, as entrepreneurs, we look at data, we look at all these stuff, and we also listen to our intuition. So I think that's a lot of, like, who I look at myself right now, that awareness part of it is so strong, stronger than ever.
Mhm.
I
That's
talk a
beautiful.
lot,
I
I
love.
don't I?
No, no, I love it actually. I mean, I love the depth and breadth of your answers. I mean, it's beautiful. 'Cause, what I took away from that. I mean, there were several things I took away from it, but what a big piece I heard is kind of that polarity of the the inner critic that we all fight. We all have that little voice in the back of our mind that's reminding us of all the things that we've done wrong, and it can be
Oh
really
boy.
easy for it to talk over the divine inspiration and intuition that is trying to come through us. And until
Mm.
we can surrender and allow that voice to come through, it's one of those things that I believe creates that perpetual hamster wheel, and that those moments of dissension and self-sabotage and all these other things. So, and
Oh
I love
yeah. And
your
it's never
epiphany.
ending fight, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the epiphany of awareness you had too, that like I can't do it on my own. And at least it's not that we can't, but we'll be extremely limited in how much impact that we can make.
There you go. You
Yeah,
said
and
it
when
better.
yeah, well, I'm not going to say better, just different, right? And it was just it's I think it's so profound, because if we're really pursuing our purpose and stepping into roles as conscious leaders and developing other individuals, I mean, that's where growth and inspiration comes from. That's where beautiful businesses come from. That's where lasting and
Mm.
transcendent global impact comes from. And on that note, I want to take a step back, because one thing I found really interesting about you is, nurse, film producer, CEO of multiple businesses. I mean, that's a unique brain, because usually I hear the artistry, and then the what I might look at as more of like the clinical side of things, because we have to be the strategist of the CEO and the
Right.
business owner and the leader. And oftentimes people are, in one side of the brain or the other. And it sounds like you've done a really good job of marrying both.
Oh.
Like I would love to hear you talk about that. Like how did your world evolve from nurse and producer to multiple business owner CEO? Like I'm just trying to wrap my head around this because that's such a neat background.
And it's funny, I was looking at this meme off of Facebook that says, I was once this kind of like talented, skilled student back in my, uni days or high school days. And now when I grew up, I'm this ADHD kind of person. So I could totally relate with that. And like, I used to have I used to be in a lot of school activities, really that kind of person who would always be at the front lines and all that stuff. I've always loved performing, but part of me when I was, in this kind of like a shaky situation in my early 20s, that's where I've been starting to learn how to kind of career I'd be pursuing, knowing that as a nurse, as a registered nurse in the Philippines, and mind you, in the Philippines, when you're a registered nurse, everybody expects you to be working abroad. In the US specifically, so it's probably why you see a lot of Filipino nurses. And it's because, life here is really tough. It's really
Hmm.
hard. I'm earning 12, I would say $120 a month,
Hmm.
and that couldn't even raise a family. I mean, even myself, I couldn't even feed off of that $120 a month. So I was looking for opportunities elsewhere, and the fact that we are licensed, the fact that we have finished college and spent so much for learning all that nursing degree and the clinical stuff, and also contributing a lot to a lot of volunteer work. So it's my parents would really look at how can we make an ROI out of all these things. So they're expecting Filipino nurses to work abroad. So that's kind of the backstory there a bit. But yeah, now looking back, now where was I? But yeah, looking back, I missed a lot of that performing, and the music has been one of my inspirations. My father used to play, um I don't know if he's in a band, but somehow he is into music, and he's bought a lot of musical instruments in the house. And I was growing up at 5 years old, I was already playing the drums. So it was already in my DNA, but along the way, you know how that works when along the way, just I have to work, I have to be an adult. And so
Yeah.
I couldn't afford just, sitting in classes or music classes or just enjoying music. It's not, and as a musician, you're not earning a lot too. So
Hmm. Hmm.
and so I had to find a way to like, and that's where I actually worked in a BPO or a call center in the Philippines, because it's easier to earn money off of that, and the living and the way we can earn wage, or the wage is sufficient enough to raise a family. So that's where I learned a bit on how outsourcing works, but not so much of, like in the in-depth of how to run the business. But essentially, all these stuff came together when I am now able to do it. Essentially, like people saying, okay, if you want to run a business, look for your passion. But what if my passion is not something that makes me earn, a decent living? Like I want to be able to dance, I want to be able to sing, but that isn't enough. At least in my perspective. I mean, no offense to those who,
Hmm.
make a living off of artistry, but like in my opinion, this is not something that I would want to achieve, in terms of monetary. But like, I want to be able to do this now, when the time came that business has been very, very stressful for me. So music has been my stress reliever. It's been my outlet for just releasing all of that
Hmm.
challenges in business. So now I vowed to myself that I wanted to make time for what makes me really happy, and I wanted to make time for what makes the purpose going. So,
Mhm.
and as well, that makes me, I'm so happy and grateful to be surrounded by people who are very supportive of these things in my life, because now I'm able to to do all that stuff with my family, with my kids, and and raising an entire, like a like three kids in the family. So
Yeah, no, it's amazing, and it's actually I believe a huge component of wisdom. It's very easy to get stuck in the go, 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 build, 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 succeed, 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 create, 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 and actually lose touch with oneself. So
there you
having
go.
the wisdom to ground yourself through something
Mhm.
that you're passionate about and find a way to integrate it still in a way that brings you joy. And yeah, maybe you're not monetizing it, but you're still
There you go.
utilizing it as something that will bring even more fulfillment and even creates a release. And I think oftentimes our greatest moments of inspiration of entrepreneurs come from the places we least expect it, and in so many instances, come from taking a step back. Like it's easy to get hyper fixated on the problem and feel like you must stay there, but it could be really powerful gaining additional perspective by placing your focus somewhere else and allowing that divine
Absolutely.
inspiration to come
Yeah.
through. Yeah. So tell me,
Yeah, that's so true.
what I would love to hear more about now. Let's shift gears and talk about your businesses. For our listeners, if you would just like unpack it at a high level. What is the ultimate purpose? What are the problems you're solving with your businesses? Who are your ideal clients? And a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. We I own a company, TeleworkPH, in the
Hmm.
Philippines. It's an outsourcing offshoring company. So we have 1,200, actually 1,400 to date, employees, and we do service about, I would say, 60% US, 30% Australia, and 10% other parts of the country, pretty much global. We do virtual assistants, we do call center operations, inbound, customer service, technical support. We also do data annotation, which is the huge bulk of what we do right now because of AI. So data labeling, annotation, content moderation, all that stuff. And recently we rolled out a service called, Go High Level white label backend operations. So this is specifically for Go high level users. And with the advent of AI and automation, well, a few years back, it's been a struggle to be in this industry, because we are looking at, well, a lot of people are looking at automating a lot of things, and because manpower is really expensive, to say the least. But like, we are looking at ways where we can leverage people, as well as being efficient with our workflows, and automating a lot of things. So that's where we are right now. We're continuously pivoting, we're continuously testing waters, but we've been in the business for quite a while, 8 years ago. So that's how it is. And we
Congratulations.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
And recently, you know how it is when you're an entrepreneur and you're solving problems for the company, and now you realize that this is something you can sell. That's that's where Salig AI came in. So Salig means trust in the Philippines. It's a local vernacular, or sorry, it's a local language. Trust in business, trust in us,
Mhm.
kind of motive or theme. But this is going to solve the problem of Filipinos accepting payments internationally. And I mean, this is because Stripe is not available in the Philippines. So
Mhm.
we came up with a solution that will, enable anyone through the CRM, and that is just this the Salig CRM, and then enabled Filipinos to accept payments internationally, much like a recurring payment, much like Stripe. So we call that
Mhm.
Salig Pay.
Oh, that's amazing. I love the name. That makes complete sense.
Thank
Um,
you.
So let's go back to telework and talk a
Mhm.
little bit more about your journey. Number one, again, I want to highlight that 8 years because, while that might not sound like a monumental feat to many people, at least on surface level, statistically in business, what is it like? Like 50% of businesses fail in their first year, like 98% fail in the
Mm,
first 5 years. So making it to year eight is a tremendous feat. And then 1,400 employees, like, obviously you're having a massive impact in your country, and then at the same time, helping other businesses thrive globally. And you talked a little bit about AI being a larger component. I mean, obviously, it's one of the biggest conversational topics today, and at the same time,
Mhm.
it's still something that I think can feel to most of us somewhat elusive. Like, how do you build it? How do you integrate it? What are the most effective use paths? And there was one other piece that you had said. I'll come back to it. But if you would, I would love to hear, um, you know, how did you come about deciding that you wanted to build this business? And what took you from where you are to where you started to where you are today? Because I mean, that's a massive company. 1,400 people is a lot of people. So what did
And
that
a lot of
give some insights
emotions.
in that? Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 Exactly. It is. Yeah. What did that
Mhm.
journey look like? Like, where did the inspiration come from? The who, what, when, where, how? Like, I'm just curious. I love to hear about this. And what were some of the lessons that you learned along the journey thus far?
Yeah, sure. So I was a nurse and I was expected to become a nurse, but I feel like this is a redirection now that I've been trying. I graduated with flying colors. It was a very easy kind of if anyone would hire me right now, I would be hired on the spot. I can tell that for sure. But for some reason, I just couldn't get in as a nurse. And I I took all the efforts, and what I mean by that is really going to that hospital and just I wanted to sell myself and even had to go to the higher ups to even sell myself, but for some reason I just couldn't get the role. So I said there must be something to this. And so while I was and that at that time, before I graduated, by the way, I got pregnant at an early age of 19 years old. So there's just obviously no way for me to earn a living rather than working. And so it has become a priority. It has become an urgency for me. And so I said I couldn't be waiting around and just looking for a job as a nurse. Probably the nearest next step that I could do right now, and like the easiest way for me to get employed is to go to a BPO. And that's where I learned that in my 2 years of working in a BPO in Metro Manila, I learned that I wasn't the employee kind of type. You know what I mean? That
Yeah,
I
I do.
am I am I feel like I don't want to be working 8 to 5. I don't want to be told what to do. And it's not being maybe stubborn, yes,
Mhm.
but I feel like there could be a better way to do this. And the painful part is, as a mom, from my place, I had to travel 2 hours back and forth. And traffic has been really worse in the Philippines that it prevented me to see my kid weekly. So sometimes I have to stay in Manila to be able to work. So it's become my mission to just work, work, work. But I really wanted to be beside my kid and witness all the milestones and all that. So I said, I just wanted to have that income where I could be with my kid. And now I feel like this is some sort of like I kind of manifested it, but a coworker of mine introduced the idea of working from home. And it was back then, like it was still called Upwork, was called was it Odesk at the time? So yeah, Odesk at the time. And I tried that, and I found a client that allowed me that flexibility to work from home. And that's where I've learned a lot of the ins and outs of how, okay, so I know how a little bit of the operations is done from the corporate world. Now I learned client acquisition here. Now, what could be, what could be, what could I be learning more about from here? But there was this sudden turn of events. I was at a crossroads because one of the clients that I worked with asked me to hire a team for them. I don't know how to do that, but I do know one thing, which is psychology and how to
Mhm.
deal with people and like being able to get through them. So I said, okay, let me try, let me do that. I don't know. I just said yes, I'll deliver. I and then they just trusted me. So that team grew from one, myself, now three, 7, 10, 21. And by the 21 count, the client said, "You guys couldn't be working from home anymore because our customers can hear chicken roosters in the background." And they said, and he said, I can still remember this. It's either you all lose your jobs or you all move to an office. And I'm like, wait, this is, oh my God. It never even crossed my mind that I would be starting a business. So it's like, all these are happening just like an orchestration now that I'm looking back, But at the time, I was like, are you serious? Do I have
Yeah.
to really go through all these things? And with all the savings that I have in my pocket, I just took that leap of faith. I was just thinking of these people that I've hired and now managing, and they were all telling me, Marge, I couldn't lose my job at this moment. I need to feed my family. And if it was only me, it was very easy to say, you know what? We're let's disconnect. We don't need you, client. I can get another client, but it's beyond
Hmm.
myself already. And it's gotten to a point where, this team it needs to continue. And so I took that leap of faith and started a small office. It used to be a coffee shop. It's really tiny. And everybody was saying, is this even a legit business? Because it looks like a scam. How it looks when the glass doors are filled with papers, just because we don't want people to be looking at,
Yeah.
from the outside looking in. We didn't have the money to ensure that it's a little aesthetic, and it
Yeah.
looks good. It looks like an office, but everybody is in a monoblock chair.
Hmm. Hmm.
They have a plastic table, but we started with humble beginnings, and the people trusted me. The people continue to trust. It's gonna be better, and now I still look back, and I'm grateful that I continued. I've
Yeah.
always wanted to quit.
Yeah. No. Well, I think we all battle that too. Nobody wants to admit that outwardly. I mean, when things get hard, it's like, God, do I really want to continue to do this? But we're here with a purpose, and especially when we remind ourselves, wait, I said I will never work for anybody else. We have those pivotal
Mhm.
reminders. And I can think back to a number of times where, I love what you said, where I said yes, even though I didn't really know what I was doing or how to do
What I
it.
do.
And those were some of the
Right.
most
I felt like a
significant turning
fraud.
points. Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember when I got asked to speak for the first time. And I mean, I was the kid that was mortified to stand in front of a classroom. And then going
Mhm.
from there to being on stages in front of 20,000 people with
Oh,
Tony Robbins and
mhm.
some of the biggest names around the world, it was like, I look back
Oh
and I
my
go,
gosh.
it was that one decision, that one time when I said yes, that completely transformed my entire experience. The opportunities I was given were somebody says, "Hey, can you build this thing?" And in my mind, I'm like, "Dude, you don't know what you're doing." But for some reason, something comes through me and says, "Yes, you do. Yes, you can."
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it takes you to a whole nother level because you grow and you learn and you figure
That's
out and you
right.
find a way when we have that passion and desire. So let's talk in a little bit more detail about TeleworkPH. Like, I would love to learn more about what you do. Like, what are maybe some of the big, most common, like the top one, two, three reasons people come to you, and what makes you different? Like, what are the biggest problems that you're solving for them? How are you making business people's lives easier through TeleworkPH?
Hmm. I clearly remember this one client who flew all the way to the Philippines to just visit the office and see the
Mhm.
staff. But there's one thing that he left as like the word said, this place is magical. And the reason he said that is because, in Manila, a lot of similar companies like us, outsourcing companies, they would continue to change staff. There would be high turnovers of staff, and that's going to be a problem because when we're building relationships with our customers and we're talking about customer experience, there is so much, retraining. There's so much going back to the start and like looking at the whole history, the whole journey of the customer. Whereas, with us or with the team, they were there is that constant, familiarity with the people they're speaking with, and when they're on the phone, they're like, "Oh yeah, I remember. Oh yeah, oh, it's the same person." It's like going to the restaurant and like, "Do you want the same order?" And that's the kind of experience they're getting out of. And the reason is because we're situated not in, it's a province in the Philippines, but it's very much, it has complete necessities, the basic needs. We have a very um, um, we have the internet, the leased line, but everybody is able to work with their families. I think that's where the power is. That's where I was coming from, and the reason why I didn't build that company in Manila. I built it in my place. It's because I saw moms like myself had to drive all the way or have to, you know, um, commute all the way from their place to Metro Manila, which takes 2 hours back and forth just every single day. And so that's so much of a time wasted. And as well, they couldn't witness the milestones of their kids. So I said there, I wouldn't want this to happen to families. And while people in the Philippines are being pushed to work outside of our country, why not build an opportunity where they could stay with their families and they can also earn income from where they are. And here that's a huge thing because people are so, the culture that we have here, because we were colonized by three different big countries like Japan, the US, and Spain. We were in that kind of a culture where, yeah, you're welcome to come here, and you're welcome to take me and I'll work for you, kind of situation, instead of you creating jobs for these people. It's funny when I went to this event in Dubai and people are when I'm introducing myself, "Oh, you're from the Philippines, so are you a VA?" And like that's like the instant thing that comes to their mind, like I'm a worker. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, "No, I'm running a business. I actually own a VA agency." They said, "Oh, okay, that's interesting." So the kind of perception that people get off of Filipinos are this, that we're mere workers. And I don't mind that. I mean, sure, everybody wants to work, but like maybe it's time for Filipinos to kind of step it up and be that, that CEO, and and be able to create more jobs and be able to amplify the impact. I think that's where the power is. And I kind of want to push for that as well. I'm actively campaigning that, and I work with the government to actively campaign that all over the Philippines, because a lot of our Filipino countrymen are very introverted, very shy, and they want to be out there, and they feel, and when you're going to these networking events, you know how foreigners, what's your height, Zach, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, I'm 5'11".
5'11", so I'm
Yeah.
5'2", so you can imagine I was looking at you this way.
Yeah.
So we were
Yeah.
joking about it. Every time someone is speaking to us, it's like rain showers. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's the same. It's the same issue, but we don't mind. I mean, it's like it's just really funny. We're talking about it.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing. Well, if to our audience, if you guys are listening to this and thinking like, how do I scale my support systems without sacrificing quality? You'll want to listen closely to what Marge just shared, because her team at TeleworkPH isn't just providing virtual staffing; they're delivering strategic extensions of your team, which are trained and go high level. Which, as we know in the states, is one of the most popular, if not the most popular CRM
mhm,
systems out there. So, go high level, automation, customer success, and more. And this is what operational scalability looks like when it's done right. It's data driven, people first, and built to grow with you. So what we'll do is link to Marge's resources in the show notes so you guys can check them out after the show. And now we'll get back to it. But let's talk a bit more about that, like the aspect of your team and them becoming strategic extensions. And, what was it that, maybe chose you to focus on go high level? And then within go high level, the automation and customer success. A big thing I heard from you is the importance of the customer journey. And if we have high
mhm.
churn in the organization, what that
There you go.
does is creates an environment where it's a lot harder to create the consistency that people want and need to experience, that predictability, right? Like I think about it this way, and it was this was an interesting distinction I was having with uh, a conversation I was having with a friend of ours who's a health fanatic. And anyway, long story short, we were talking about the foods we feed our kids. And, there's the organic foods, there's the good stuff, there's things that are the things that come from nature. Like if you eat any banana, it's not going to be identical to the next banana you eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's going to be a slightly different size. It want to be a little bit more sweet, a little bit more bitter. But then you compare it to so many American manufactured foods like Cheez-Its or goldfish crackers or whatever, and every
Mm-hmm.
one of those crackers comes out the same size and it's got the same flavor profile. And it's a thing that creates that addiction, unfortunately, for the kids. But on a positive note, in business, we want that level of consistency. You don't
Mm-hmm.
want people to be on a roller coaster where they're wondering, is this week going to be a better experience than the last, or vice versa, right?
Yeah.
So I love that
Yeah.
you identified that when I create a better team and that stickiness, the environment where people want to stay, the end result is I can create a much more congruent and consistent customer experience. So that's beautiful. And outside of that, I would love to hear you again talk a bit more about your decision to stick with Go High Level, and then the operational scalability, like what automations are they that you're focusing on? What does customer success look like? Talk a little bit about that and those integrations and how you're using it to help businesses succeed and thrive at an even higher level.
Yeah, so the service that we are offering is a white label back end team. We actually call it back end SaaS line. So
Hmm.
BaaS line, I'm sorry, BaaS line. So back end support. So if we have SaaS, we have BaaS, back end support. So the team, so we have this pod. We call this a team that is composed of, you think about when you go to a hospital and you work with a team of one surgeon, operating nurse, and an anesthesiologist. So you also work with a tech guy or the automation guy. You also work with a customer or onboarding specialist, and you work with a project manager. So all three, you hire all three for the price of one. There's actually five of them now. So there's a backup in case, you want to be able to scale up and down. There's scalability there. But for the price of one, you get this entire team of experts working in your Go High Level business. What this does is now, if you are an agency owner and you want to be able to cater to as much clients or customers you're working with, you can definitely use the same team over and over. I think about, when we went to Sydney for the Saucepreneur event, we really did hard on researching how we can make this offer better because it's very important for me to understand what customers really want. And the thing that stuck with me is scalable pricing. We don't want another pricing where like when the number of clients increase, then the amount also increases with us. Well, to some extent, yes, it will, but there is that kind of like it will have to have it would have to be like 7 or 10 clients before we add another onboarding specialist in your team. The team has been trained enough to be fast at providing service. Actually, these are Go High Level certified admins, so they really went through that certification. So we're talking about really highly trained people. The quality is there because I've seen a lot of agency owners offering the same, but there is just AI bot doing the tech support, but we are real humans here. So we don't want to be talking. When you show us to your customers like a white labeled team member, we don't want to be showing up as a bot, right? We want to
Hmm.
give that customer experience for them. And so that's kind of the vision behind it. And we are in this phase of like really understanding how we can also make sure that everything is efficient, everything is like a well-oiled machine because we are working with multiple time zones. So we're actually working from day to night, servicing Australia and then US and then UK in between. So that's where we are kind of like understanding how we can spread, the when it comes to scheduling and workforce optimization. But other than that, a lot of our clients in the lead generation industry, in the healthcare spa, these people have been very pleased with the builds that we've made, the automations, very simple automations, and even complex. automations we've built for them, but most importantly, the kind of customer success. Churn management is one of those where, we want to be proactively saying, hey, customer, you haven't been using your account. Is there anything we can do for you? Because we don't want to lose you kind of situation. So I think that's one of the services that our customers like the most, and upselling them potentially to a lot of different services in the company. And so we're not only retaining customers, but we're also, generating revenue for our customers. So that's where we come in, and that's where our strength is.
Mhm. There's two really powerful things I heard from you, and I'm gonna come back to those in just a second. So, I mean, if you guys have made it this far, you're likely someone who's building something big, and maybe you're feeling the weight of doing it all yourself. And Marge's story is proof that you don't have to. Whether it's automating
Mhm.
processes, scaling customer support, or simply finding the right virtual admin, there's a better way. So, if you want to connect with Marge and explore how her team can help you scale, make sure you check out teleworkph.com. It's teleworkph.com. We'll have it in the notes, or connect with her directly on LinkedIn. She's incredibly
Yep.
generous with her time, as you can tell, and we love her insights. Now, the two things that I heard that were really profound is like, one, fall in love with your ideal client and what they want, not what you want. And as business owners, it's
Mhm.
really easy to get married to your own
Oh,
idea,
for
and
sure.
and then we become a tree versus that's rooted and stuck in one particular idea versus something that
Mhm.
is mobile, the seed that floats to the crowds, right? So I love that you had that moment of realization, and what it ended up creating for you was like, you can build an offer that scales with the company versus just doing
Mhm.
something that's cookie cutter. And then the second piece was, and I love this, is proactivity. It's like, most companies, they're focused on the MRR, monthly recurring revenue, and you've got your clients that have their membership to your particular software or service, and that's the last thing that they frequently check in on. But you guys are going, okay,
Mhm.
are our clients fully utilizing our suite of services? If you're noticing that there's any kind of reduction, you're proactively reaching out to them and going, hey, we see that you aren't using this thing. Let's take a look at how we can ensure that you are really maximizing your investment with us, and
There you go.
basically restarting that strategy session, right? Which is
Mhm.
so important. And I love that you have that depth of forward thinking. As we wrap up today's episode, Marge, I would love, like, is there, if anybody is considering hiring a VA or working with an agency, are there some tips that you have in terms of maybe how they evaluate different
Mhm.
agencies? And, in that, I'd love to hear you talk about even more about like why they should choose you, like what makes you different. Because I think I just summarized some of those things, which to me are immediately like, well, heck yeah, when I need to build and scale a team, I'm reaching out to Marge. But in your mind's eye, what are some of those unique differentiators? What do you bring? What should people be asking and aware of so they don't get misled by somebody that you know says they have great intentions but don't deliver?
Yeah, for sure. One thing is definitely, the kind of results that they have made for their past clients, any portfolio that they currently have. Like for instance, when we talk with our clients over Zoom, we don't just show off what we have as a company profile or deck, what have you, but we actually show them how to do it. Like we have a GPT that exactly tells you, okay, if you wanted to map this out, if you wanted to build something, how should you go forward about it? What are the steps? What are the opportunities? It is a step by step, and we show you exactly, work with you to show you exactly how it is to be done, because it's very easy. I mean, anyone can be great at speaking and showing off, but it's very hard to tell right these days, especially with AI, who really are the experts in the field. And aside from all the credentials, aside from the experiences, aside from working with go high level certified admins that really took the time to go all through these credentials and pay for a certain
Hmm.
fee every month to stay on that certification, we've been able to show and tell or show clients that this is how we are going, this is how you should be doing when you're working with your client. or this is how I suggest that you do it for your clients, and this is how it's going to happen internally for us. So we are leveraging technology to be transparent with our clients at all times, like where we are in the project, where we are when it comes to hitting the deadline. Are we 80% close to the target? Those types of things, and really being proactive about, let's sit down together and do a monthly business check-in or monthly business review. There is a way of cadence for us to speak with the higher ups, if you, or someone like myself, if you have issues with, let's say, the operations manager. We have an office in the Philippines. I think that's one of the key differentiators there. It's been very much easy to like work when everybody is in one place, and I think everybody can relate to this, especially with the advent of, with what happened in the pandemic, where everybody's on Zoom, and it's been very easy to like just touch anyone if it needs notification, if he's missing the notification, or to pass that knowledge when you're training somebody. And so that's one of our key differentiators. A lot of the virtual agencies are also, um, I mean, a lot of the agencies have a virtual setup, which makes it even challenging for them to do communication. And but yeah, we are mostly active in the go high level space and the saucepreneur space. We've been always attending events, showing up, and we've got priority support with high level as well, just because we've been very active with, um, the high level certification, and we've been really in touch with a lot of different um, key people in high level. So that makes it even easier for us to send tickets if it's necessary. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's great. That's beautiful. Well, that's a wrap on another powerful episode of the Perpetual Growth Podcast. And huge thanks to Marge Avizo for sharing her journey and
Thank
hard-won
you.
wisdom and building teams and systems and solutions at scale. And again, for our listeners, some of the big takeaways I got from today is, you can't have high churn in your company. Like, you've got to create an amazing customer journey, and the only way that you can do that is through a consistent team. So management becomes more
Mhm.
important than ever. Leadership, growth, development. And then we got to fall in love with your ideal client and what they want, not what you want. And having the right support systems with qualified VAs that can help you build that appropriate infrastructure so you can create that consistency becomes more important than ever. And proactivity, and leveraging technology to be transparent with your clients at all times, so they know where you're at in the project and exactly what's happening, and reaching out if they're not fully utilizing the service, so you can
Mm.
help recraft and mold that offer. I mean, all incredible takeaways and gifts. And again, you guys can then reach out to Marge at teleworkph.com. Again, teleworkph.com. Make sure you reach out to her and her team, and utilize her resources as you're looking to grow and expand and build more infrastructure. Now, if today's episode sparked an idea or even just gave you a little momentum, do me a favor, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and leave us a 5-star review. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. It helps us, reach even more leaders just like you. So until next time, remember, growth doesn't happen by chance; it happens by choice. We'll see you soon.